All right, let's talk about the most amazing and, yeah, sometimes the most frustrating piece of tech you will ever own, your brain. Today, we're basically cracking open the user's guide for your memory, how you make them, how you keep them, and, hopefully, how you find them again. Let's jump in.
So has this ever happened to you? You're having a really tough day, you put on some songs you haven't heard since you were a teenager, and suddenly, things just feel a little bit better. We've all done it. But what's really happening there is you're using your memory as a tool, a powerful one.
And you know, this isn't just a feeling. We've actually got the data. During the COVID-19 lockdowns, Spotify saw this huge jump in people streaming older music. It's pretty clear, right? When the present gets tough, we reach back into the past for comfort. It just goes to show you, our memories aren't some dusty old photo album. They're an active resource we use to handle our emotions and get through life.
So how does this whole amazing system even work? Well, it really all boils down to 3 key steps. First, there's encoding. That's just getting the information into your brain. Then you've got storage, keeping it filed away somewhere. And finally, retrieval, pulling that info back out when you actually need it. Let's take a look at each one.
Okay, let's start right at the beginning with encoding. This is step 1. Before you can even have a memory, your brain has to take an experience, everything you see, hear, feel, and translate it into a language it can actually file away. And it turns out how it does that is everything.
The big idea here is something called levels of processing. And the theory is actually really simple. It's not just about paying attention, it's about the quality of your attention. Put simply, how deeply you think about something is the #1 predictor of whether you'll remember it later.
Okay, let's take the word mom. Shallow processing is just kind of looking at the surface, noticing the shapes of the letters, MOM. You saw it, but you didn't really think about it. Deep processing, though, that's when you think about the meaning. You picture your own mom, you think about what she means to you. That act of connecting the word to a bigger, richer idea, that's what really burns it into your memory.
And this explains a super fascinating piece of research. Get this, students who take notes by hand actually remember more than students who type them out on a laptop. So why is that? Well, when you type, you can just mindlessly write down every single word. That's shallow. But writing by hand is slower, right? It forces you to listen, to summarize, to put the ideas into your own words. It forces you to process it all more deeply.
The real secret is connecting new information to stuff that's already rattling around in your head. It's a process called elaboration, and this spiderweb analogy is just perfect. Think about it. Every new link you create is another pathway back to that memory. The more threads you have in that web, the easier it is to find what you're looking for.
Okay, so we've successfully encoded some new info by thinking about it deeply. So, where does it go? This brings us to step 2, memory storage. The best way to think about it is that your brain has a few different filing cabinets, and they all work on completely different timelines. Everything starts with sensory memory. When you look at something, your eyes hold onto this perfect photographic image. It's called iconic memory, but only for about 1/4 of a second. It's this incredibly detailed snapshot of the world, but if you don't immediately pay attention to it, poof, it's gone. Now, if you do pay attention, that information gets promoted to your short-term memory. This is basically your brain's mental sticky note. It can hold a few pieces of information for maybe up to 30 seconds, unless you do something to keep it there, like when you repeat a phone number over and over again until you can find a pen.
And finally, if that information is important enough, if it's processed deeply enough, it makes its way to the big one, long-term memory. And here, the storage is, well, it's practically unlimited. And these memories can stick with you for your entire life. This is where the story of who you are really lives.
But even that giant long-term memory filing cabinet has a couple of different drawers. You've got explicit memory, which is for knowing what. These are facts and events you can consciously call up, like what you had for dinner last night. Then you've got implicit memory, which is for knowing how. These are skills that become totally automatic, like riding a bike. The famous patient HM showed this perfectly. After his surgery, he could learn new skills, but he had absolutely no explicit memory of ever having learned them before.
So we've encoded information, and we've stored it. Now for the moment of truth, getting it back out. That's retrieval. But as we all know, sometimes that just doesn't work. And this brings us to the other side of the coin, forgetting.
You have absolutely experienced this. It's called the serial position effect. If you give someone a list of words to remember, they almost always remember the stuff from the beginning, and they remember the stuff from the very end. But all those items in the middle, yeah, they pretty much become a blur.
So why does that happen?
And, more generally, why do we forget things we were so sure we knew? Is that memory just gone? Or is it still in there somewhere and we just can't find the file?
Well, one of the biggest reasons is something called interference, basically other memories getting in the way. There's proactive interference. That's when old memories block new ones. Think pro like forward. So you keep calling your new friend Patience by your old friend Prudence's name. The opposite is retroactive interference. That's when new memories block old ones. Think retro like backward. You meet your new friend Ralph, and now for the life of you, you can't remember your old friend Raoul's name.
But here's a huge plot twist. A lot of the time, what feels like forgetting isn't actually forgetting at all. It's encoding failure. Think about it. Could you draw a US penny from memory perfectly? Probably not, right? It's not because you forgot what a penny looks like. It's because you never really learned it in the first place. You only ever encoded enough detail to know it's not a dime. The rest of the info just never got in.
Okay, so we've walked through the whole process, encoding, storage, and retrieval. Now for the really good part. How can we take this user's manual and actually use it to our advantage? Let's put this all together into a toolkit for hacking your own memory. Here are the top 5 things you can start doing right now. 1. Pay attention. Seriously, stop multitasking. You can't remember what you never really focused on. 2. Process deeply. Don't just look at it. Connect it to what you already know. Make it meaningful. 3. Elaborate. Build that spider web. The more connections, the better. 4. Use imagery. Try to create a mental picture. It gives your brain 2 ways to file the info, making it way stronger. And finally, and this is probably the most important one, test yourself. Don't just reread your notes. Actively try to pull the information out of your brain. That's how you really strengthen those pathways.
In the end, your memory isn't just about remembering facts for a test. It's the raw material of you, the experiences you choose to process deeply, the stories you tell yourself over and over. They literally become the building blocks of your identity. So I leave you with this question. Knowing that you have some say in this process, what kind of story are you going to choose to write for yourself?